Welcome back to the Money and Meaning podcast, where we go beyond the numbers so you can worry less and live more. My name is Erica Wright, and I'm here today with Elijah Mott, one of my coworkers. And we are going to talk about, we've got some fun things to talk about today, Medicare, RMDs, and things to accomplish before the end of the year. So, Elijah, what do we have today on the list?
Yeah, focus for today is going to be, number one is going to be Medicare Open Enrollment. That starts very soon, goes for a little while through the end of the year. We're going to talk required minimum distributions also, because that directly impacts Medicare and how much that can cost for people. In addition to that, we're going to talk about some investment changes you might want to make, or portfolio updates you might want to do towards the end of the year, and then a couple financial to-dos beyond that as well.
So open enrollment starts on October 15th and it goes through December 7th. So not quite to the end of the year. So people have to kind of get to work on this in this little six or 7 week period they have. But what else do people need to know about that?
Yeah, certainly one of the most important things to look at is that a lot of stuff changes about Medicare every year. Drug formularies, coverage, premiums, the amount that you pay for Medicare can change every single year. So it's important to get in there, to look at all your options and review everything to make sure you know exactly what's going to be covered and how much you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. So this would be important if you had like a change in your health over the past year and you're taking new prescriptions that you weren't taking before. You might want to look into your Part D and see if everything that you need is actually covered for the year going forward. And one of the questions we get asked quite a bit is about the IRMAA tax and the IRMAA adjustment. So what that stands for is the income-related monthly adjustment amount. So if you make over a certain amount of money or have a certain amount of income, your Medicare premium can increase. So you kind of want to avoid that if you can, and with some planning you can do that.
Definitely, because there's actually a 2-year look back at your income from up to 2 years ago when it comes to IRMAA. So that's something that's very, very important to look at. And a lot of people don't necessarily realize that their income from 2 years ago can have an impact on how much they might pay for Medicare today.
Right. And if you do have some qualifying events, the government loves their qualifying events checklist. So if you have a qualifying event like you retired or lost a spouse or have less income due to like losing an income property or something like that, you can actually file for an appeal, but you can't just count on an appeal if you had to take a big distribution from an IRA or something throughout the year.
Right. And that's another thing, is that taking distributions from your IRAs is directly raising your income, which can also put you over certain IRMAA thresholds, which can increase the amount that you pay for Medicare.
None of those thresholds ever line up. Like the tax bracket threshold and the IRMAA bracket are just slightly different. So it's really tricky to kind of make sure that when you're doing any changes that you're keeping all of those different thresholds in mind. And Medicare can be really overwhelming and confusing if you've never been on it before. And most people that are starting Medicare for the first time have probably always been covered by an employer plan or something that they're more familiar with. So there are resources to help you. We have a strategic partner that we work with in the office here. He's great and he can answer pretty much all of your questions. You can also use the Shine counselors. They're available through mass.gov, but it's just a program where there are people that are essentially experts on everything you need to know about Medicare, and they can help you get set up and make sure you have the right plan in place. And there's going to be a link in the description below for that.
Certainly, and if you're not in Massachusetts, you want to just check with your local state government to see if there's some option they have. There's a lot of different programs like that around in a lot of different states, so just check to see if there's something available in your state if you're not in Massachusetts.
Right, excellent. So what else do we have today? We've got RMDs. That's a huge question we get every year this time. Like everybody is trying to make sure they get them done. And what do people need to know about RMDs?
Yeah, certainly. So if you are age 73 or older, then you have a required distribution you have to take out from any of your pre-tax accounts, which that means your IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, basically where most people have their savings.
Right.
You have a required amount that the government forces you to pull out if you're age 73 or older, and that counts as income for you in the year that you pull it out.
So really, depending on how much money people have saved up in these pre-tax accounts, it can really have a huge impact on their taxable income for the year.
Certainly, yeah. If you have a large amount of money saved, then the distribution that the government forces you to take out could be a really significant amount, and that could impact you in a variety of ways, right? It could push you up into another tax bracket, so your taxes could be significantly higher from your RMDs. It can also push you, as we talked about earlier with IRMAA, it can push you up over an IRMAA threshold into another bracket there to make your Medicare go up. So there's a lot of impacts that can have. So it's good to have a planning in place, not only to make sure you are being strategic about how and when you withdraw your money from your pre-tax accounts, but also to make sure you're aware of how much you're going to be required to take out, because the last thing you want come tax time is a big surprise because of how much you had to take out.
The other thing I think about a lot is people that maybe took a tax holiday for a few years after they retired and before these RMDs kick in, and they have, there's accounts that have just grown and grown and grown, and they lived off of their, their savings or their CDs or whatever they had. Your required distribution can be really big. Yeah,
and we see that all the time, is that people come in and they have these huge pre-tax accounts. Like I said, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs are the biggest ones that we see. They have these big, huge accounts, and they've just waited and waited and waited because they weren't required to pull anything out. Well, now the time has come, you're age 73, and Uncle Sam is knocking at the door saying, I need my piece now. And that's a big surprise to a lot of people when they realize how much they have to pull out of their accounts every year.
We talk about different strategies people can use if you're in that situation and you have a large RMD that you have to take, but we talk about qualified charitable distributions. You can take money out of your 401k or your IRA and donate it directly to the charity. It has to go directly from the plan to the charity, but then you don't get taxed on that money. It just doesn't count towards your income at all. So that's also, there are strategies if you happen to be in a situation where you have a big RMD and you're trying to avoid being into another tax bracket or another IRMA bracket. There are solutions and things you can implement.
Yeah, certainly. And realistically, the best way to approach your RMDs, and Mark and Damon talked about it last week in the previous episode, is to get ahead of it, right?
Absolutely.
Is to be proactive. So if you're not age 73 yet, definitely check out some of the other episodes we've done. Mark and Damon did the previous episode where they talk about some strategies you can do to try to lower your RMDs before you get to RMD age.
So a lot of moving parts that you really need to be aware of as you're going into RMD season and you're going into the end of the year. A lot of different things that can kind of throw curveballs if you haven't been doing any planning.
Yeah, definitely, because there are a lot of investments also that are kicking out income to people that sometimes they don't even realize are being kicked out, right? If you have investments that have dividends that are getting reinvested for you, which a lot of people do, that's creating taxable income for people right within their portfolio that they might not even realize is also adding to that sort of income problem that's increasing their tax liability every year. So it's important, this time of year is a good time of year to look at your portfolio to see what sort of income it's generating, what sort of return it's generating, how much risk are you taking in there, and also to look at the different kinds of risk, right? Because people look at risk and they think that risk is just the risk of the market going down and losing value in their portfolio. Right. But once you're in retirement, there's other risks to consider, like the risk of increasing your income too much and giving yourself a big tax surprise at the end of the year, like we said. So it's a good time of year to sort of revisit that and make sure that your portfolio is really generating the amount of income that you need it to and that you want it to, as well as, of course, everything else that's involved in rebalancing your portfolio. But it's a good time of year to take a look at that. Yeah,
most people probably don't ever think they're going to be in a situation where they need to dial back their income, but just being strategic about it, I guess.
Right. It's a good problem to have, I guess.
It's a really good problem
to have so much income that you're paying too much in taxes, but the reality is, if you're generating too much income, there's no reason to be doing that, right? Because if you don't need the income, then why are you generating it? Why are you paying extra taxes on it, right? So it's just about being aware of what your portfolio is doing and how it's doing it, and making sure that you know what your portfolio is doing, you know what it's generating in income, so that you have control over it.
So making sure that people are aware of what's going on in their portfolios and taking advantage of any tax loss harvesting opportunities that may be available to them in this tax year. It's definitely important. All those things need to be done before the end of the calendar year.
Yeah. So. Definitely. It's a good time, like I said, to take a look at it. Tax loss harvesting can help, if your portfolio is kicking out dividends, certainly rebalancing your portfolio. It's all very important, and it's a great time to do it.
So speaking of great times to do things, we've got a little bit of a checklist for people to just make sure they're covering everything towards the end of the year. And let's talk about the main things to take a look at. We talked about Medicare and making sure that you have the best plan for you. So log on to that Medicare.gov website and compare plan options and see that you have the best thing that works works for you. We also talked a little bit about RMDs and making sure that you are prepared to take your RMD, and that if there's anything you can do as far as your tax changes or anything that you need to do before the end of the year, that you're aware of that.
Yeah, definitely. And just making sure you know how much you need to take as well, right? You know, you want to know how much your RMD is going to cost in taxes, how much is going to be kicked out to you, definitely. So talk to your advisor or whoever it is that's managing your money, or if you're doing it yourself, you know, you can always reach out to us, schedule a 15-minute intro call. Certainly, we would love to talk to you about your RMDs. We'd love to have that conversation with you. If you don't know or if you have questions, that's what we do. That's what we're here for. So certainly give us a call to schedule something like that with us.
Yeah. Another couple of things we talk about for the end of the year is checking your beneficiaries. Really important to check all of your policies and your accounts. Maybe you had an update to your legal work and you have an old trust or something mentioned on your legal work. So just make sure all those beneficiaries are up to date and the right people are getting what you want them to get if you've had any changes in life. And then finally, we talk about the Retirement Checklist Challenge. That's a mouthful to say, but it's available on our website and also available in the link below. Just a bunch of questions that you can ask yourself and just see how prepared are you really for your retirement.
Yeah, so definitely check out those links that are in the description, and keep in mind the fourth quarter moves really fast.
Yeah, it does.
Right? The end of the year moves really quick. There's a lot of holidays. A lot of things are moving in the fourth quarter, so it goes by very, very quickly. So you don't want to wait and delay, and then next thing you know, it's January 2nd, and you missed the boat on some of this stuff, right? So fourth quarter moves really fast, so keep that in mind. These changes that we're talking about, these aren't huge changes, right? These are just little things, little tweaks you can make that make a big impact in the long term, right? So definitely check out that retirement checklist. It's free. It's very easy to use. It'll give you a good idea of what you've got done already and what you might need to get done, right? And if you're confused about that, or if you have other questions, like I said earlier, give us a call, schedule a 15-minute intro call. You can do that in the link in the description as well. We're more than happy to have that conversation with you and work through any of these things any of these questions that you might have.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Erica Wright here with Elijah Mott. We look forward to seeing you next time.